Hi, I'm Edel, Medical Education Lead here at 3D for Medical, and welcome to this webinar on tips and tricks for complete anatomy. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel, Facebook page and our website. Today, I'll go through with you some tips that I have learned along the way while using complete anatomy, as well as some features that will help you get the most out of the app. Let me know what you think by leaving a comment. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you'd like to see, just leave a comment and I'll try to answer all the questions at the end. So here are 5 tips and tricks for complete anatomy. The first thing I'd like to show you is the breadcrumb trail. The breadcrumb trail displays along the top of the screen whenever you select a structure, and it shows the parent groups of that structure. However, what you might not have noticed is that you can interact with the breadcrumb trail. For example, I can select on a muscle in the lower limb, and I can see that the breadcrumb trail appears along the top of the screen. And I can see that this muscle belongs to a group of muscles called the quadriceps femoris. And I can select on this group and see it on the model. Again, I can see that this group is part of the anterior compartment and the thigh, and I can even select and view the lower limb muscles. As I select these parent groups, the information on the left-hand side changes depending on what information is displayed in the parent group. This is really important when we look at the organs. So I'll turn off the muscles and the skeletal system, and I'll turn on the digestive system. Here, I'll select a part of the liver, and you can see that the information on the left-hand side is specific to the right lobe of the liver. However, if you select liver from the breadcrumb trail, the information changes, so it's now a nice introduction to the liver as an organ. This is perfect for users who are studying anatomy for the first time and want to learn the basics before they go into a lot of detail. Another really useful tip of the breadcrumb trail is that it allows you to hide and fade multiple structures at the same time. For example, here with the liver selected, I can choose to hide the liver. I can also choose to fade the liver. And I can also choose to hide all other organs. So now I can see a really nice view of the liver here. When you're creating screens. Another useful tool is the multi-selection tool. So here again, this tool can be used to select multiple structures, and you can manipulate the model as well as create clear screens like these. To look at the multi-selection tool, we'll just turn off the digestive system and I'll turn on the skeletal system. And I'll focus here on the bones of the hand and wrist. Let's imagine I want to create a screen of just the bones of the hand and wrist without the remaining skeletal system. I can do this using multi-select. To turn on multi-select, I just press on any one of the bones in the hand, and I can press multi-selection from the left-hand side. Here I can start tapping on more structures to add these to the list, and you can see the name of the structures on the left-hand side under the info box. I can remove any of these structures just by pressing on the X, or I can also press undo and redo. However, a tip here is to use the select area function, which allows you to select multiple structures in just one quick and easy motion. So I'll press on select area, and I'll use my finger just to create a square, and everything in this square will be selected. At this part, I can actually use the explode feature as well, by just pressing the explode button on the left-hand side. And now I can see the shapes of the individual bones of the hand. To return to the main screen, just press back on the top left-hand corner. Again, I can use the view options on the left-hand side, such as hide others, to hide all other surrounding bones, and then I press exit to leave multi-selection. And now I have a really nice clear view of the bones of the hand and the wrist. So that's multi-selection, another really super easy using tool to get a nice view of the model. The next tip I'd like to show you is the 3D pen, which is one of my favorite tools to use. The 3D pen allows you to draw directly onto the model. To show you how to use the 3D pen, just open Tools on the right hand side of the screen, select on Pen, make sure you've 3D selected on the bottom left hand corner of the screen, and you can also change the colour of the pen just by pressing the pink circle icon in the middle, and I can change this to blue, and I can also change the size of the pen on the right hand side, and the middle scroll bar allows you to change the transparency of the pen. So now I can draw directly onto the model and I'll number the phalanges in the hand. A tip here to get the 3D pen very precise and to get it very neat is just to zoom in on the model. And now when you write on the model, the 3D pen will follow all of the grooves of the bone. So that's the 3D pen. I'd like to show you some examples of how we've used the 3D pen in our undergraduate human anatomy courses. So I'll just open our library, and the first example I'd like to show you is from a lecture, Nerves of the Upper Limb, and this shows the brachial plexus. The brachial plexus is one of the hardest structures to learn in anatomy, and here you can see we have labelled and named the different vertebrae, spinal nerves, trunks and cords of the brachial plexus. The next example is from a lecture, Muscles of the Lower Limb, and here we have used the 3D pen to colour code the different compartments in the thigh. So here you can see the anterior compartment, medial compartment and the posterior compartment. You can also use the 3D pen to highlight special areas in the body. This next screen is taken from the lecture Special Areas of the Lower Limb, and here you can see we've used the 3D pen to highlight the borders of the femoral triangle and the important structures it contains. So that's the 3D pen, and I hope it inspires you to use the 3D pen in your own screens. The next thing I'd like to show you is a few tricks with group labels. Let's recall first how to create a group label. So I'll just return to the skeleton and I'll zoom in on the skull. To create a group label, press Tools on the right hand side, then press Labels, and to create a group label just press and hold down on a structure. And you can see a group label appears, and I can continue tapping on the model to add structures to that group label. However, a trick here is that you can actually again drag your finger across the model to create a box, and any structure that's in this box will be added to the group label automatically. So now I can rename this label as the skull, and now I can see the group label and all the structures it contains just by tapping on the arrow and selecting on the different names of the bones. Another trick with group labels is you can actually create an empty group label that's associated with a model position and not associated with structures. Let's take a look. Okay, so open Tools on the right hand side, then select Labels. Again, press and hold down on a structure. Just delete the structure that's in that label, and now you have an empty label, and you can rename this. I'll name it as anterior. I'm going to rotate the model, and again open Tools, select Labels, again press and hold down on a structure to create a group label, delete the structure in the label, and we'll rename this posterior. So now we have two labels that are assigned two different views but aren't associated with any structures. I'll show you an example of how we've used these empty group labels in our undergraduate course. This screen is taken from the lecture Introduction to Anatomical Planes, Positions and Terminology. And here you can see we've used these labels to focus in on the different anatomical planes without selecting the skin. So the next thing I'd like to show you is the Discover tool. The Discover tool allows you to see under the skin and past structures. However, there is one particular setting that I find really useful in the Discover tool, which makes it really easy for students who are studying anatomy for the first time. To show you the Discover tool, I'm just going to reset this page and I'll turn on the skeletal system, the arteries and veins, and I'll turn back on the skin. And I'm going to zoom in on a special area of the elbow called the cubital fossa. To open the Discover tool, just press Tools again on the right hand side, press Discover, and press on the Settings cob icon in the centre of the screen and select Cut Skin Only. So now when I drag my finger across the model, you can see under the skin. Some students find it difficult relating underlying anatomy to the skin, so this is where the Discover tool can help. I can just lift off my finger to set the position, press Done on the top right hand corner, and now I can see a window inside the skin. You can also use the labels for you to remember the important structures in this area. So that sums up the 5 tips and tricks that I've shown you here. However, we have another bonus tip that I'd like to show you, and that is the fracture tool. Let's have a look at the fracture tool. I'll just turn off the skin and the nerves, veins, arteries and muscles so we only have the skeleton. And I'll zoom in here on the hip. To turn on the fracture tool, again just select Tools on the right hand side, select Fracture, and I can drag my finger across the model, and when I lift it off, a fracture will occur. I'll press Done on the top right hand corner, and now you can see a fracture in the neck of the femur. However, here is a tip. The fracture tool can also be used to mimic tendon ruptures and tears. The most common area of a tendon rupture is the quadriceps tendon, so I'll turn on the muscles. And I'll use the fracture tool to mimic a tendon tear in the quadriceps tendon. And here you can see how easy it is to replicate a tendon rupture or tear using the fracture tool. So that's all the tips and tricks that we have for today, and I'll see if I can answer any of your questions. So we have a question from Dan, and he asks, what's the difference between the 2D and the 3D pen? And it's a really good question. So the difference between the 2D and 3D pen is that one is drawing on the model and one is drawing on the screen. So I'll open Tools again and I'll press on the pen tool. Okay, here on the bottom left hand side of the screen you can see that I can change between a 2D and 3D pen. I have 2D pen selected here and I'll just draw 2D here on the screen. I'll change to 3D and I'll just change the colour so that you can see the difference, and I'll just make an X on the model. So now when I rotate the model you can see the difference. 1, the 3D pen is on the model, and 2, the 2D pen is on the screen. So that's the difference between those two pens. I have a question from Steve. He asked, how can I get access to the undergraduate human anatomy courses? The courses are available in the library. So if you select the library on the right hand side and then you change the group to View from the 3D for Medical group, and you change the tabs to change to View from Courses, now you can see the 2 courses on the top. And these are our undergraduate human anatomy courses, which are a nice introduction to anatomy. I'll select on the regional one, and you can see that it's broken down into different modules and lectures. And you can purchase individual lectures or modules, or you can purchase the whole course. I have a question from Michelle. Can you use the fracture tool on any other system? Yes, you can use the fracture tool on most systems apart from the organs. The only organ you can use the fracture tool on is actually the heart, but it makes more sense to be using it, let's say, on the skeletal system, and you can also use it for the tendon ruptures as well. I have another question from Mark. Can you use the Explode tool on other structures apart from the bones of the hand and the wrist? And you can. You can use the Explode tool on any structures that you multi-select together. For example, you can use it on the heart. So I'll just clear all the tools here and I'll turn off the muscles and the skeletal system and I'll turn on the arteries. Again, you'll notice here that I'm using the breadcrumb trail to isolate the heart. I'm going to select heart and pericardium from the breadcrumb trail. I'm going to hide all others and I want to hide the pericardium. So I'm going to select pericardium from the breadcrumb trail and select hide. And now with multi-select and select area, I can select all of these structures and press explode. And now you can see how you can explode these structures as well. However, the explode tool does work best on the skeletal system. Okay, I have a question here. When will we get the female model? So we're actually working on the female pelvis at the moment, which will be released very soon. We'll have the female pelvis skeletal system and urogenital system. So thanks for bearing with us on that, but we'll have it very, very soon for you. I have a question from Kira. The undergraduate human anatomy course helped me. When will you be releasing more courses? So as you can see here, if I open the library and I return to the courses, we have some coming soon courses here, such as histology, cadaveric labs and clinical human anatomy. We'll have some of these released in the new year in January and the rest will be shortly thereafter. I have a question from Philippe who asks, how do you turn on all the systems with one press instead of building up the layers? Very good question. Okay, so if I return to the model, you can see how I've been turning on the systems is just by pressing and holding down on the body system, which a lot of people might miss because you might be used to just tapping once on the button and then pressing the plus button to build up the layers. So you can use this system or you can press and hold down to remove or add systems. So thanks very much for your question. So I think that's all the questions that we have so far. Thanks very much for watching and please don't forget to check out our social media pages on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all our updates. Thanks very much for watching.